I am here with Green Martial Arts, and this is Zach, and today we are going to learn
elbow strikes.
For today's story, I have another somewhat happy ending that I want to share with you in regards to how an elbow to the face defended off a child murderer. So this man, Derwin Davis, 40 years ago, 1979, he was in the car with a man who was trying to be friends with him and suddenly leaned over to try to attack him, and Derwin instinctively elbowed him to the face and ran out of the car and escaped him. Between 1979 and 1981, there were 29 black children and young adults that were murdered in Atlanta. And they were deemed the Atlanta child killings, or this was the Atlanta child murderer. Wayne Williams was the man caught for murdering 2 adults in 1982, and he was convicted of the murders for those 2 adults, and they're positive that this is the man that was also involved in these murders, but they decided not to go forth with the trials because he was already sentenced for life, and they didn't want to bring back the trauma for these families that had lost their young loved ones. Now, when Wayne Williams' face popped up on the screen, Davis saw that face and knew immediately that this is the man that he was in the car with, that he attacked. And so the great news for him is that that elbow to the face protected him and saved him, and he's, an adult man now living a great life. Let's hope that we can start to kind of use these defense techniques as a way to kind of protect ourselves from any type of violence, any type of crime, any type of evil that's out there in this world. And Zach's going to kind of show us how to effectively use these. Hey, I'm here with Green Martial Arts again. This is Zach, and we're going to be talking, specifically answering a question that we got several times in regards to why in our past videos we didn't go directly for the groin, and he's got the expertise, so I'm going to let him have at it.
So it's a good question, and I actually am not against groin strikes, despite popular belief, right? There's a lot of martial arts that teach that as like the first move, right? Same with like pulling fingers and things like that. And they have their application and reasons that you can use them, but there's a problem in it, right? If we're relying on just someone being in enough pain, right? That's the words, right? Enough pain to make them stop fighting you, right? When we start talking about that, we're talking about potentially wearing someone down in a fight. So if you watch like the UFC, right, or anything else along those lines, when boxers, kickboxers, or MMA fighters get hit, they can get hit quite a few times, especially with that adrenaline pumping, right? Criminals aren't all that much different, right? If you're in a situation where someone is attacking you on the street, they probably have a pretty good amount of adrenaline. A strike to the groin might surprise them. It will probably hurt really, really bad. Unfortunately, that also might invigorate them a little bit. It might make them more angry, right? So now we've taken this situation where it could have de-escalated, right? And we've actually escalated the situation. So now this person has gone from potentially wanting to do something terrible, like rape, to doing something like murder, right? So we've stepped it up, right? And we talk about it all the time, like how do we de-escalate the scenario, right? First, how do we keep it from happening in the first place? And then also, like, if it's gonna happen, how do we put them away right away? How do we make sure that something goes? So things where the arm fractures, where you choke someone out, things like that, those work really, really well because they don't rely on the opponent giving up. They rely on the opponent being completely dismantled, right? So for those reasons, they can be very effective. You'll notice that if you watch like the UFC, when they're fighting, right, they're allowed to kick, right, to the leg, and they technically could kick the knee, but they don't, because if they kick at the knee, sometimes that joint causes a big problem. Someone gets really injured, right? So usually they aim right above the knee where it'll shut down over time. But again, they can take quite a few of those. So that is your reason for not striking the groin immediately. Again, not against you throwing groin strikes. I'm just saying use it as a distraction to get something else going maybe, right? So maybe you use that groin strike to wrap your arm around their head and put them in a guillotine choke, right? Something along those lines is a lot more effective. There's a lot of different elbows. We're gonna learn specifically how to throw a straight elbow strike, just a basic elbow strike. Things that you need to know about elbow strikes. They're very effective in close quarters combat. Obviously, you cannot use them from far away. Your elbow's not that long. Your hand isn't even that great from too far away, right? I have to be relatively close. Luckily for us, usually you're trying to be grabbed by someone, so the elbow strike becomes very effective for those reasons.
Luckily for us?
Yeah, right? Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna take that disadvantage, right? That thing that they're relying on, this fact that they're bigger and stronger than you, right? And then we're gonna cut them open with an elbow. When people see their own blood, they don't like that, right? And also, they hurt really bad, right? So, this is another example of how we could use a distracting blow like an elbow. One, it could knock you out, so it's potential to knock out. But two, even if that doesn't work, there's other moves that we can follow it up with that we might be able to finish them with, which I'll go over as well. So, different types of elbow. You have the rising elbow, right? An elbow that comes up, right? At a vertical angle. That's usually designed to get into the chin or into the nose, something along those lines, right? You have a dropping elbow. You drop elbow, right? Up, down, okay? So, that one, 12-6 elbow, is even illegal in certain forms of combat, right? You're not supposed to do it on people in the head. It's dangerous, you could kill them. You have the reverse elbow that comes back, right? And you have a straight elbow that comes forward. Most people treat that elbow like it's a hook. They go in circles with it, like this, which is not as effective as poking with it, right? That stabbing piece of your bone, that really sharp piece of your bone at the end there, can really cut people open. In fact, I have a scar over my eye from an accidental elbow, right? It wasn't even intentional, right? We were boxing and I accidentally took an elbow and I was bleeding for a pretty long time and I had to get stitches for it. So it can be really effective in shutting someone down immediately, and it can knock you out. Let's learn how to throw a proper elbow, okay? So, one of the things we need to know about elbows is that if you throw them like this, you don't get a lot out of them, right? So what I do is I cover my head, right? Because I know that if I could throw an elbow, she could throw an elbow. So I cover my head and I strike forward, right? And I move in as I strike, and that causes the sharp part of the bone to enter inside the pocket. So if Tamara's right here, she's gonna do it. She's gonna send this piece of her elbow, the pointiest point, into this person's head, potentially causing blood, possibly a knockout, right? Lots of cool things can happen from there. Sound good?
Yes.
All right. So she's gonna make that fighting stance we learned last time, right? She puts her foot back, right? Just like she did for the knees. In fact, knees and elbows oftentimes go together, right? She keeps her hands up, right? And as she goes, she tucks her elbow in and strikes in and forward at me.
This one stays.
Yeah, and that one stays on her forehead, right? And she comes forward, boom, strikes. Boom, strikes. Good. Now,
right?
she is actually. So, the first two, she hit me here with the sharp part of her bone. The second one, she hit me with the forearm. Okay? So, reasons we don't want to hit the forearm, it's not as effective, right? It doesn't hurt quite as bad. It hurts, but it doesn't hurt as bad. She wants to hit me with that pokey part, right? Think of your elbow like a knife. It's a stabbing motion. And every time you stab them, it will cause a lot of pain. Make sure you're aiming forward, right? A lot of people, like I said, are going across. We want it to go in and forward, right?
I'm aiming, okay.
Aim at me, right?
Got it,
Almost
at
like
you.
you're throwing a punch,
At you.
right? One, yes. Okay. Much sharper, much more vicious. That hurts through the pad. And I've got a pretty good ball of fluff in there to protect me. So, very effective, good job. So, the elbow, like I said, is a great distraction, okay? So, what I like to use is a guillotine choke. For that, I have my beautiful wife here. She's gonna help us out. So let's say you have injured this person with the elbow strike or the strike to the groin, right? Or anything along those lines. She makes her fighting stance, right? She hits me with that elbow, boom, I'm hurt for a second. Ah, blood, right? Now, all she's gonna do is wrap her arm around my head, come underneath, pick it up, and sleepy time, all right? So again, one more time, right? She hits me with that elbow strike, boom, right? She wraps it up, picks it up. Good. Keys to the guillotine choke are hand comes under and lifts up as you rise your hips into them. Okay? The absolute worst case scenario is they try to take you down, you wrap your legs around them, and you still choke them out, right? So for example, right, she hits me with that elbow, boom, she wraps it around, boom, she puts me in the guard as we go down. And that's how you do elbow strikes to the guillotine choke. We need to break down the guillotine. How does the guillotine choke work? Well, it's a great choke because it cuts off blood supply. It also puts a lot of pressure into the neck, okay? So, as I use a guillotine, as my hand comes around the neck and under, right? Let's turn this way a little bit for them. You can see that my hand actually sticks out the other side, okay? This is how I know my guillotine is gonna be very effective. When it's shallow, I might get this choke to work, but when it's deep, it's even more effective, right? She can already feel, I can feel her throat, right? So now, as I come under, right, I grab my own hand and it looks like this grip. So one hand there, one hand there. I square my hips with her, and now I'm gonna rise with my hand on the bottom, and I'm gonna lift it with this hand. As I lift my hip, and it's very effective. You can actually see their eyes get bloodshot almost immediately, right? The deeper this hand, the better, right? The scoop hand, right? So here I am. I throw that elbow strike, bam, right? I ring it across, and up. A great example of this working in a fight, it took a little longer for it to work, is John Bones Jones versus Lyoto Machida.
If you learned a lot from these videos, or if you're learning a lot from these videos, if you're practicing, and if you've tried them out, please let me know how it's going for you. If you appreciate it, please like, comment, subscribe, all of those things. It really helps us out. It helps us move forward and make more videos. I appreciate you guys so much. Have a great day.